Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first vOLTHA TST of the year, 2022. So thanks for joining. As usual, the call is public and recorded and will be shared live on YouTube. So please be mindful of the comments you make and the information you share. First of all, let me welcome everybody and say Happy New Year. Hope you have enjoyed the break during the Christmas and the New Year's holidays. And let's get a good start of 2022. So first of all, just a little bit of an update from the ONF side, myself and the rest of the ONF team on the 2.9 release status. We have managed to release 2.9 before the end of the year on December 17th. So that was good. And we also, the tests during the break were running pretty smoothly. We noticed a couple of issues with a few hardware jobs. We are in the process of taking a look at them. But during the holidays, I also managed to finally release the 5.0.4 vOLTHA ONOS image, which includes all the released TST, all the released apps. And those are with the latest ONOS 2.5.5. And apart from that, we are also testing that ONOS with the 2.8 version that includes the new OLT app, and we will update with the results of that soon to everybody. We are testing it at scale and we're seeing good results. We're testing it in the BB-Sim tests, and we know, except a few minor things, we are also having good results there. We need to test it on hardware. We found out a small issue, so we will release a 5.0.5 of vOLTHA ONOS for a small bug fix in the OLT app. If you're interested, as usual, we are doing a webinar about the vOLTHA 2.9 release. So you're free to welcome to come there next Tuesday at actually after this meeting. So at 6 p.m. Central European time, 9 a.m. California, and you make the conversion for all the other time zones. And well, it's going to be me, Theo and Ken giving an overview of the status of things in vOLTHA 2.9, some of the changes that we made. So before I go forward, any questions on 2.9?
No, just if someone was curious why we didn't release ONOS together with the vOLTHA release, that is because during December was discovered a vulnerability with Log4j, so pretty much the entire world was trying to release on Maven Central in the same few days before the break, and Maven Central was not able to process all the requests in a reasonable time.
Indeed. So we actually had issues with Maven, not just with ONOS, but also with the ONOS apps. And there were a few releases stacked up, the 2.7 of ONOS, the 2.5, and thus we were able to release because we built a custom image with the included fixes. The Log4j, we mitigate that issue. We are now looking at possibly doing a 2.5.6 of ONOS with Karaf 4.2.14, or I think, if I'm not mistaken, which includes the latest fix, actual fix for the Log4j issue. So, but long story short, now the release is complete with all of released items, but there was no real issue. It was just more of a formality that we had to do. Any questions or comments?
No, just if you are concerned about the vulnerability in Log4j, it doesn't really affect us because it is present only if you run on JDK 8, while ONOS in our container runs on the JDK 11. So it shouldn't affect us at all.
Yes, because it's built. It's actually built via JDK 11 container that includes not just the Java JDK, but also the development environment, the runtime environment. Everything is Java 11, so there should be no issue. Also because it's pre-packaged in the Docker image. So don't worry. That's long story short. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'd like to introduce a new member of the ONF team. I'm very excited for Elia Battiston to join us. He's going to be an intern at ONF for 6 months. And he started yesterday, so be easy on him. But jokes aside, he already started looking into a few Jira tickets, and hopefully he'll make great contribution. I'm sure of that. So please welcome Elia. And if you want to reach out to him, as usual, you can do it on Slack. He's based in Milan, give or take. Elia, if you want to say a few words, feel free.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. I'm excited to join the development of vOLTHA, and this is all. You have already introduced me enough, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Elia. Okay, so today, really, what I wanted to go over were a few things, mainly a couple of documents. The first of which is the 2.10 roadmap that we should be aiming for. The document is public, you can see it there. And I went on this with the operators. We're still polishing it, but in broad strokes, we know what we're going to work on. So that's why I wanted to discuss it with the TST and see if there are any questions or thoughts from you guys. So first of all, we need to work a little bit on scale. The idea is that we should expand our scale capabilities. And in a 3-node cluster, we should be able to reach, for Türk Telekom, 128,000 subscribers. And for Deutsche Telekom, half of that, around 50K. But possibly 4K subscribers and ONUs. Remember, for Deutsche Telekom, it's the same thing because it's 1 uni per ONU. 4,000 subscribers per VOLTHA core. So that's one of the things we will be working on. Definitely announcing the core, the adapters, and the VOLTHA side of things, and also working on the controller side, most likely not with ONOS per se, but possibly with the new microservice-based VOLTHA controller, which I will talk a little bit about later. The other main element that we want to work on, and Amit and his team at Radisys in collaboration with Deutsche Telekom will be working on this, is the FTTB support. So inclusion of the DPU object, management of the DPU via in-band traffic, with MAC learning of the DPU MAC address, and a specific workflow for that within the Deutsche Telekom deployments. If you're interested, there is a document. It's almost ready. I would say it's still between ourselves at ONF and the folks at Deutsche Telekom and Radisys. But if you want to take a look, feel free. We'll discuss it most likely more in depth the next TST. A carryover from 2.9. Which we didn't manage to do, is the voice support on the multi-UNI ONUs with the telephone port. That's done with Türk Telekom and Netsia, and that's another thing that they will be working on. One thing that was requested by Deutsche Telekom, and we actually do already have, but we need to possibly do some further tests on it and maybe document this a little better, is the rolling upgrade. So vOLTHA is capable of performing rolling upgrades of each container by effectively, for example, Helm install dash dash upgrade, install dash dash upgrade dash dash install for minor versions from, like, for example, from 4.0.1 to 4.0.2. And that is already capable. We already have tests that ensure that we don't break functionality on the data plane during this upgrade. So the ping we was put in, the continuous ping test was put in into 2.9. So while we do this upgrade, we test continuously the ping on the subscribers. What we might need to do is test the system capability to react to events while we are doing some upgrade. That test is not present. We will introduce it and possibly document this better. Keep in mind, this does not work for ONOS. But with the 2.5.5 version of ONOS, which is included in 2.9 and will be most likely ported to 2.8, we do have the internal ONOS ISSU mechanism. So even though it is not done via Kubernetes at the moment, it might not be done via Kubernetes at the moment, but at least it's possible to do. With the new microservice controller of ONOS, the microservice controller for vOLTHA, which we will talk about later, we will be capable of doing it via Kubernetes also for that control. So let me halt. I talked a little bit. Is there any questions here? No? Okay, any comments? Anything to add, folks that are working on things? Okay, then no, let me go ahead. There is a little bit more work that might needed to be done in the alarms and metrics for Deutsche Telekom. I am in discussion with Paul Wagner. I don't expect this to be a very big task. There are maybe, possibly, it's not even sure that they're there, minor announcements that we have to do. The other big thing which we would need to start working on is a substitution for ONOS. So what we have right now, we found out that there are some issues with it, some scale problems, and like even the release process, as you saw, like we discussed before, it's cumbersome. Many things that point to ONOS as the next thing that needs to be rewritten. For those of you who are in the project since a long time, we actually rewrote the whole vOLTHA core, the whole adapters from Python to Go, and I guess now the time is that we do ONOS. So at ONF, we have come up with a proposal. You can see the document here, and this is what we will be focusing on. We are also in talks with some of our partners and members to get some help, possibly even some open source code, some code that is existing to get into open source. We will see, and I will update everybody on that whenever new elements and new things come up. I'm not going to go into detail of this right now. If we have time, maybe later. The few other things that then remain on 2.10 is the lag in LACP. This, the implementation, I believe it is a little bit of a stretch to do, but at least we should try and figure out a very good and detailed design discussion, because at the moment, to me, is not totally clear what the requirements are and if we even can do it. So we are in the process of getting those done with Third Telekom. There's going to be a few certification things that we need to do, the device management interface for Adtran and possibly new OLTs, and an upgrade to BAL 3.12 to include the new chipsets. So that's kind of what I I'd like to do into 2.10. There are a few other things that we know we would like to do, but most likely not going to happen into 2.10, given the priority. Any questions or comments? Okay, then if not, let me proceed. So if there are, just feel free to review this document and come up with any comments or questions you have, and I will be happy to take them. We will go still over this in operator TST meeting most likely next week, so we'll maybe give updates after that. Okay. So next up is actually to give an overview of the new controller that we would like to write for vOLTHA. So for those of you who know, the ONOS has been our controller for a long time, actually all the years of the project. And it is the controller also because as a whole project, we were part of SIBA. And with SIBA, we were controlling not just the OLT, but the fabric as well. So the thing there was that it didn't just manage vOLTHA. And that is the reason why we had ONOS, because it included also all the elements to manage the fabric as well. And that is something that the SD Fabrics team is still working on, and you could deploy ONOS to control your fabric. But at the moment, we are really split, and no operator uses ONOS to control the fabric. So we thought that we could just write a controller for vOLTHA itself with no fabric control or other elements. This is going to be a vOLTHA targeted element. Okay. The problem that we start with is that the current ONOS Classic has some limitations, especially around overlapping operator workflow and complexity there. It uses a different HA model from vOLTHA, with, for example, the not having the capability to do rolling upgrades via Kubernetes, but you have to do via its own ISSU mechanism. It uses a lot of RAM CPU resources. There's an analysis of how much it uses. It has some limitations of scale, and these are well-known limitations. These are limitations that to go over these numbers, it would require substantial rework of the existing ONOS. So we don't really plan to do that. And so those are the limitations at scale. We cannot reach, for example, the 128K subscribers with a 3-node instance of ONOS that Telecom is asking. There's also a very long build process. It's not very, as you could say, cloud native, both in build and release process. So for the continuous integration, continuous deployment that we aim to do, and the versioning and like the cloud environment that vOLTHA is built for, this is kind of a relic of the past. And also it brings in a baggage of things that we don't really use, but they're still always active, such as the intent subsystem, resource managers, neighbors, regions, edge services, domain subsystems. There's a lot of stuff that ONOS can do, but we don't use and we bring in. So that is a resource of bugs and also waste of resources. Also, a key element that connects to the scale is the fact that due to the use of OpenFlow, and this is really an OpenFlow related element, we are polling for statistics in flows, groups, meters, and ports. And that heavily affects the capability of the system to be performant. What you want is a better streaming mechanism and also a non-polling mechanism for results of the operations. So for example, when you do a flow add, you want the flow response to come to you, and you can just immediately decide if the flow was added or not, instead of waiting for the statistics and polling the statistics. We certainly still do have ways for the device to tell the controller that something went wrong. So we might have periodic audits, for example, but that could be turned off. And also we could use streams for events. That is the main goal. And so we could avoid the polling, which is taxing in resources and resource consumption on both the controller and vOLTHA. Also, while this is not exactly the way we at ONF will deploy it, and some of our operators will deploy it, there is interest in the community, and we need to recognize that, to run the controller on the box. So effectively building the whole thing, vOLTHA and the controller as on a Kubernetes cluster on the OLT. So taking vOLTHA, putting it on the OLT, and with vOLTHA and the OLT having one box that acts as your OLT and control software at the same time, given the fact that there are some pretty powerful OLTs out there, and this would allow you to deploy it somewhere and not have to change, for example, the architecture of your network to try some of this out. So at ONF, we took a look at all of this and said, okay, there are some things that we want to do, and we would like to rewrite the controller with some key tenets. The first is we want it to be performant and very, very oriented towards achieving scale goals. So the first element to do that is use the Go language. We have proven that Go is perfect for what we do. And for example, with the OpenOU Go adapter, we wrote it, and it increased, expanded the capability of the system to scale with just one instance of that, just because we changed from Python to Go, and we could also drop all the resource consumption of the JVM by going to Go. Then we would also drop the use of OpenFlow. So that would entail completely dropping the OF agent and going directly to the vOLTHA core APIs. And that would allow us that type of interaction, direct request response that we were talking about before. Again, a lean implementation, one microservice with clear distinction between all the operator workflows, having a faster release process, and having the capability to do a container restart model. So having some storage that keeps the data there, but we don't need a 3-node controller per se. Kind of similar to what we do with the TCD in vOLTHA right now. Optionally, we could leverage some of the existing Micronos implementation. And we came up with a possible architecture of this, which is what you see right here. The idea is to have some common pieces, packet handling, group and flow and meter handling, and what we call an event handler for port up, port down, device up, device down. Leverage the existing topology subsystem of Micronos with storage done in Atomics. Bear in mind that this is the completely rewritten version of Atomics, which I provided a link here for those of you who are interested in taking a look at what is new. And this is actually a fairly interesting element to me, because while before we were mandated with one backend in Atomics, right now, actually the newer version of Atomics allows you to choose the backend. So we could use the Atomics APIs, but with a Redis backend, or swap it out for an TCD backend or an actual Raft backend that Jordan is working on. And we could actually, interestingly, do performance evaluation of these different backends for our use case. So this is kind of what we came up with. This goes very well hand in hand with other projects at ONF, and the idea of having a control-oriented microservice. You can go through the document in more more detail. I would like to hear some comments. I know this is a lot to digest. And down below, you can also see some of the requirements. For example, of the different streaming stuff that we would like to have, some of the storage concerns, what northbound APIs we want, some of the requirements, some of the timelines, and how we would do things. This describes it all. So this is my overview. This is agreed upon by ONF itself, and it does provide kind of our path forward, and we will do it. So this will be done within either a 2.9, a 2.10 or 2.11 time frame. Most likely, 2.9 will have both the existing version of ONOS and an initial POC for this, while we would like to move out of the existing version of ONOS for the next NTS release, which is 2.11 in December. So we have a year from now to implement all of this. Any thoughts, comments, ideas?
Yeah, Andrea, you know, on our side, we are also working on this item. So we did a meeting with you also. And since then, we made a few meetings internally and made some, prepared some documents. So somehow, I mean, we should find a way to work together on the document. So adding a few more details like the deployment model, or are we going to support more than one OLT in this control stack, or per OLT deployments?
So those
the AJ, etc. So we have to gather together somehow and work on the document together to find a way to work together. I mean.
Okay, yeah, I mean, whatever questions, you can send them over. And if you have those documents that you were talking about, just please do send them over. Please do send them over to me, and we can then take a look at that. Okay, and see how we can proceed. The idea is to have this for many vOLTHA OLTs, for many OLTs, so many vOLTHA cores. It's a one-to-many, one controller, many vOLTHA cores. It can work in a one-to-one, but the goal is for this to be capable of handling many OLTs.
Okay, I mean, let's talk this in detail after we prepare the documents and send you. What I'm trying to say is to, I mean, talk all these requirements, all these design issues together and get to a final decision. Okay. Because I mean, my opinion is to have, I mean, a stack, say control stack for this all these applications, a control stack per OLT and a vOLTHA stack per OLT. So we can discuss the pros and cons of each approach and decide accordingly. I think it needs more detailed discussions on the document. Perhaps a few weeks of the discussions to come with a final decision.
Mahir, I'd be more than happy to hear your thoughts. If whenever you have them, we can discuss them over in this meeting. This is precisely the venue for this type of elements. So we can also discuss them in the open. If you have some things that you would like maybe to share with us before we come in the TST, I'm also more than welcome. So whenever you can share these thoughts, please do, even now or next week or whenever you prefer.
Okay, I'll share with you documents when they will be ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would also like to comment on this one. I like it very much that you are really now working on something to improve the performance and the footprint of the whole vOLTHA deployment. And that is, from my point of view, the main advantage of this one here. And I very much like this. I have some questions regarding this one. What is those two questions? What is the northbound interface that you are envisioning? So is it still in kind of intent based northbound interface? Because I've seen here in the document also TR385 and so on. And the second question is, are the tech profiles preserved, or is there a replacement for tech profiles?
Okay, so let me answer the second one first because it's an easy answer. Those are a vOLTHA construct. Those are not related to ONOS, so to the controller. So we are not going to touch those.
I mean, at least you reference them. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So we're not gonna touch the technology profile. That is a vOLTHA specific construct. ONOS at the moment doesn't know anything about those. So except like
the number, yes.
The number, exactly. So whatever. That's not gonna be touched. Answer to the first question is hold on. Sorry, can you repeat the first question?
The first question is the northbound interface, because you
yes,
optionally that there's a BBF interface, which is a little bit different than, because it's an explicit, very detailed based system, whereas the intent based system of ONOS, original ONOS, is more in intent and abstraction.
My bad. I completely
no problem.
So yeah, the northbound, my idea, what I would like to do is to actually, for this controller to be capable of being slotted in an existing ONOS deployment. Because have been a lot of work that have been done by the operators to integrate some of those APIs into their OSS BSS. So I would like this new version of ONOS to be capable of being put into this existing deployed systems. That would mean keeping the same APIs on the northbound REST APIs. So I would like to keep the add subscriber API, for example, remove subscriber API that are there. But as it's written here, I'm not opposed to having BBF oriented northbound API. How that looks like, it's a very good question. We are working towards that with a BBF team, which we call the Tiger team. We are working to understanding some of the vOLTHA APIs, some of the ONOS APIs that we have, how they map with BBF models. And there might be some work of that goes into this northbound API. But for now, if we start any development of this, we will start it with a very similar API to the existing, as you call it, intent approach.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, then please do take a look at this document, take it inside your company, take it inside your team, discuss it with them. I would really like the opinion of everybody here. As Mahir was saying, they are working on it. Please do what they have done. Go through it, document things that you like, document things that you don't like, document the questions, and then just come up with those in the TST. Okay? Anything else before we move forward? Okay, if not, there are a couple more items that I'd like to discuss today. The first one is, as we were saying before, the use of the newest version of ONOS, which is 5.0.4 in vOLTHA 2.8. So that is a released, the 5.0.4 is the released version for 2.9, which includes the new OLT app, and also ONOS 2.5.5, which includes the ISSU capabilities. So that means that we have two very good announcements in 2.9 that are not into 2.8, the LTS release. Per se, these two are not bug fixes. There is a slight bug fix in the OLT app that enables the AT&T at scale. That was the last known issue of the 2.8 release, which we fixed with the new version of the app. But given that AT&T doesn't use this, and that neither the Deutsche Telekom, neither the Turk Telekom workflow are affected by that scale issue, it's not really a major element. So per se, this is not really a bug fix. But it enhances deeply the quality of the controller for the vOLTHA 2.8 release. So our thinking at ONF, more maybe my thinking at ONF, but I know Theo agrees as well, is that we should bring the new ONOS with vOLTHA ONOS 5.0.4 into 2.8. Let me stop there and see if anybody has flags, red flags on doing this. No red flags?
So
nope.
Another benefit of doing this, if it's not disruptive, is that porting bug fixes to 2.8 would be much easier because the code base is the same.
Okay, thanks, Theo. Yes, I totally agree. Given that the OLT app is going to be the same 2.9 and 2.8, that's going to be simpler. And also the code quality of the app allows for easier bug fixes.
Actually, we have in the field the old ULT currently with vOLTHA 2.8. So I don't think we will change it before we change the, say, vOLTHA 2.8 to 2.9 or something. So in telecom, we will still using the old one. We will be using the old one, but I think it's not a problem.
Yeah, so given the fact that these are slot in, it's going to be an operator's choice which version to use. We could say that both are supported. Obviously, if we do the backporting, if we move to 5.0.4, the bug fixes will not go into prior version of the OLT app. That has to be said.
Mahir, a quick question, if you know it. In your deployment, are you using the open source version of the application, or you have an internal version?
We have some few changes on it, but I mean, most of it is open source.
Okay, thanks.
There are a few changes on top of it.
Okay, but so you don't use the vOLTHA ONOS we provide anyway. You build your own custom image.
Yes.
Okay.
Building our custom image, but I mean, code source is from the open source, you know. We add something or some changes on it. That's all.
Okay, yeah, it has some minor changes, but it's pretty much the open one.
Yes, correct.
I'd be if there are things that are applicable to the open source code base, Mahir, and you want to submit them, you're always open to do so if you want. If you need any help, just feel free to ping us. But I see what Mateo's coming at. You can always build the image as you prefer. I have to say we have not. There could be another option. Hear me out. It's not my preferred option, but we could bring in some of the ONOS fixes, especially ISSU, by moving to 2.5.5 as a base for the vOLTHA ONOS image without moving to the OLT app, to the new OLT app. I would not really much like to do that because the OLT app is a great announcement in quality. And it's much better, really. But if the operator's interest is not in using that app, I would be okay moving 2.5.5 on 2.8 and not the app.
Is there anyone from DT that has an opinion on that? Are you using the old version of the app? I imagine if you're deploying 2.8.
Yes, maybe I can speak up here. Yeah, and currently we are using 2.8, but it's not planned to use 2.8 in our larger rollout. So we will definitely upgrade to larger or newer versions. So we also upgrade all the parts to newer versions. So we are still in a development phase for the mass rollout. So
yeah, as far as I know, Deutsche Telekom's plan are to go in roll out with most likely a mixed version based on 2.9, 2.10.
Yeah, because
So,
the FTDB is such important for us.
Yes. So that will be on the new OLT app because that will be FTTB will be developed on that. So I wouldn't be worried too much about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm open to everything, but if Deutsche Telekom is the only one that is actually using 2.8, I think we should highly consider their position on whether to change ONOS or not, since they are going to be the one that are affected the most.
So if I read this correctly, then we should not change it.
I mean, you can probably discuss this with the rest of the TST
Yes.
team. I don't think everyone is online today. But it seems to me that Deutsche Telekom opinion in this case, it's the one that really matters. Because at ONF, we're mainly working on master. Deutsche Telekom is mainly looking at 2.10 for the deployment, then they will be the one that are most affected by the decision on 2.8. So
yes, and the other thing is that given that they are building a custom image, nothing prevents them to use 2.5.5 of ONOS as the base for their image.
yep.
We do have plans to move to 2.9 in Telecom, but not now.
Yeah. No, I imagine you have forward-looking plans, but you are actually running 2.8 with a big number of subscribers now. So
yes, the upgrade is in progress. You know, we will start to merge issues, etc. But the current, you know, production is not with 2.9. It's with a version between 2.7 or 2.8. So we're still using the vOLT, the old vOLT application, and this will continue for a while. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then most likely we will not do it. I think we can stick with that. Yeah, I think we can then skip it.
Okay. In the meantime, I will ask to our guys if this is important or
Yes.
not, or I mean, it can be done or not. Then if I can get some information from them about, I mean, doing it or not doing it, then I can share it with you, okay?
Yes.
But
If
currently we can take the position as you mentioned before. Okay.
yes, if you do have any questions about announcements that were made either to the OLT app or to ONOS itself, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good. The last item for today that, before I go forward there, any more questions or comments? No? Okay. Then if not, the last item for the day is something that was ported over from 2.9. We fixed it in 2.9, but there were thoughts of making changes to this into 2.10 with a better mechanism for actually using a streaming service for checking the containers' reachability between themselves. So Ken, I think this is more up to you. Do you want to give us an update on this?
Well, no update. I was away.
Makes sense.
fair enough.
Yeah. So pretty much, I submitted the code as work in progress in Garrett, so anybody can take a look at it and give their comments. It was based, I believe, on as close to the 2.9 release code base as possible. So it should be fairly recent. Maybe there would be like some minor rebase required here and there, but most of it should be there. So any comments would be appreciated.
Yep. Thanks, Sam. We'll take a look, and it will have to go through our usual battery of tests and things that we have to do. But sure, thanks. Thanks for that. We'll do that, and we'll get it in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any more questions on this? No? Okay. Then if not, we still have a few minutes left. Let me open up the floor for people if they have anything that they want to bring up to the team and want to be discussed. Open to doing that. No? Okay, then if not, thanks everybody for joining. the first TST of the year. Let's continue the great work. The target for 2.9 for the 2.10 release, I forgot to mention this, is June 30th, with the code freeze around June the 3rd, give or take. So that gives us some good days, some 3 weeks of testing for the release, which we saw is needed. So that is the target for the release. We can always adjust it a little bit more down the line, but that is the timeline I was thinking about. Okay, thanks everybody. Talk to you on Slack or the mailing list. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.